All right. Well, thank you for joining our office hours today for the CEJA reporting system. Today, we have a few items that I just want to go over. They've been some of the things that have been releases in the past. Well, the last release that went to production, and then we have another release that's getting ready to go to production on Thursday. So I was going to cover some of those items. And then we will open it up for any questions that anyone has. And then the demo that was scheduled for today is to go over updating like the grantee detail sections and training programs and so forth. So to get started on some of the updates that we've made, I'll go to a person that I added this morning. Added the customer and went through some of the information, or went through, the process of adding this person earlier today. And one of the updates that we made to the system that I wanted to make sure everyone is aware of, in the pre-screening information, all the questions have stayed the same. Some of the updates that we've made, though, is that if you, excuse me, have this contract incubator accelerator program selected, then it'll say referred to the contractor incubator. If you say refer to a navigator, it's going to say work with a navigator to select a program, and then you can select the navigator. If you select, what was the other one? Oh, refer to the non-CEJA program, then you can select from one of these options for a program, and that will save those results in the system and be used to, populate the direct the customers to the appropriate areas, but then also to document those for your plan versus actuals, the different types of, whether it's ClimateWorks, Workforce Hubs, or navigators. There's, slight differences to the plan versus actual, and that information is used to populate some of those reports. Okay. The other thing that is new, you'll notice that I'm in UAT. And so UAT is user acceptance testing. And so this is currently in UAT and not in production, but it will go to production Thursday, late Thursday night, early Friday morning. And one of those updates is to be able to update the service needs assessment. So when you're on this page, you'll see service needs assessment and you'll see this little edit icon. And this will allow you to update the information that is in that service needs assessment. Now, during the testing period, we noticed that a couple people were trying to update the service needs assessment in this assessment summary view. And so right now you're not able to do that, but I was going to create a development ticket, excuse me, so that we can, add, a link or, some information on these so that if you are on this assessment summary page, that you'll be able to, go to a view where you can update those assessments as needed. Okay, let's see here. Oh, one of the things that I just wanted to cover, it's been a relatively new update, is we did add this profile update information here. So, as you're going through and updating an application, or, creating the application, all that information is put into the profile. But we did have an area that, you can update uh, some of the, contact information without impacting the app. I'm sorry, you can update some of the profile information for you to contact them without impacting the application. So that's located on this left-hand panel under Update Profile. Okay, let's see, what else do we have here? Let's see, I'm going through my list, sorry. Update pro. Oh, another thing that had come up over, some of the past in the past, and we said we were going to update it, and so we did. Is that there were some areas on the service needs assessment, and I don't have examples right here, but where it was like maybe it was like mentoring or financial literacy or tutoring, or there's some things that were some of those items that were on the service needs assessment. And you had to have a very, you had to have a very specific service in order to make this go from needs attention to good. And we did make some updates on some of those. And so we have this list of instructions. I can show you how to get to this list of instructions. Go to workNet. We'll go to the partner side. You'll go to your partner guide, and it's in the policies and procedures area, but it's also on this quick start guide. As you go down through each of these, you'll see there's this service needs assessment and service alignment. And if you click on that, you'll have this list that describes, each of those questions, whether it's referral or, a service, I'm sorry, yeah, support service that's needed. And, based on if you select any of these options that are in the service needs assessment, there's a listing of the services that would basically mark that as good. So if you had tutoring, you could either use this tutoring service, or you could use this itemized list, wraparound service where you can enter a cost for that. So there's several of them. I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but it's mainly like tutoring. I think there's some in here for, like I said, like earlier, like financial literacy, and scroll down here. Financial literacy, I believe, is one of them. Mentorship. So there are a few of them. So we did make that update. That is out in production. So you should be able to access that now. And again, those are instructions on this alignment with the service needs assessment. And let's see, what else did we have? Oh, one of the things that I want to make sure everybody knows about is we do have an export. I'm sure, we've covered this before, but it's a pretty useful tool. So I just want to make sure that everyone's aware that it's available. So we have all these various fields that are used in some way for some type of reporting piece. And, in addition to the contact information. So whenever you do this, you can select everything, or you can just select, a few items, and then hit export, and then it will export to an Excel file, and, you'll be able to see that information. And it includes some information on, the pre-screening. I know that was some of the requests from some of the users, is that they would like to be able to export people that are in their, pre-screening. And so that's available. And then if you scroll down here a little bit further, you can see some of these are very specific to the application. Okay. Any questions on anything that I've covered so far? Need to find my screen over here. All right. If there's no questions, I'm going to continue on with some more of the updates. Let's see here. Let's get over to Bobby. Let's see. No, I don't think there are any changes to the career plan. One of the things that we updated for the program completion is previously what you would do is if you selected complete, it would you would say like complete and save, and it would use the date that this was entered into the system. We've made an update so that you can select the completion status, and then you can put in like the actual completion date here, so it doesn't just automatically pick the date that you entered it into the system. And then we also added this option here where you can upload an exit interview questionnaire if you wanted to. Um, we use that for another program within CEJA, and so we made that available for everyone. And so you can see like this is an example. I uploaded a document and it puts it here for the exit interview. If you had withdraw, put the withdraw date, the reason, and then you could do an exit interview as well. It's not required, but it's available to put there. So as you put this information in there, all the information now is displayed on this page, which it wasn't previously. All these details weren't previously on this page. Let's see here. In another section we have is the work plan and reports. And I'm going to start out with the report section. These were updated to put them in alphabetical order. But then also, we just haven't changed this from, I think it used to say service cost report, and so we just changed it to cost report because it was so similar to the service report. People were kind of getting confused on which ones to use. But cost report, customer service report, demographics report, and so we highlighted, if it's which type of grantees use those different types of reports. And then we have the narrative report and so forth. So that's a minor change, but I think it helps with better being able to find the report that you're looking for. We have updated on the work plan. This has been out there for a few sprints, but just to highlight it again, we have the training program section. So once you have all your training programs, which is what we're going to cover in just a little bit, you'll be able to see those training programs associated, with your work plan. So you'll be able to see, which ones are approved and so forth. One of the things that we've been working with some of the cohorts, with some of the grantees so far, I'll just mention this because I'm on this section, is that if you haven't already done so, what you'll need to do is go in and update your cohorts. And if you have something that's already listed here, you can click on it and enter in some of the required fields. We made updates to this modal a while back because we are using this for a report for, so that any of the navigators or grantees can find the information and help with them with directing customers to the appropriate grantee based on, like their like capacity, availability in order to, and, next finding the cohort that matches a person's interest and one that is starting relatively soon. So I see, it looks like Nate you have your hand raised?
Yeah, thanks, Natasha. I had a quick question for you, or maybe to
Mm-hmm.
just give you a heads up and put a pin in this. I'm not sure if you're aware of like a discussion we've started having recently where we're noticing that uh, a fairly significant number of participants are showing as enrolled, but they don't appear to have like at least a job specific training services assigned to them. And I'm wondering if maybe this cohort piece uh, may be part of that. Is that would it be the case that if they were entered into a training program but not assigned a cohort, might that be why they're showing up as enrolled but not actually associated with any training services? Or and
The
if
thing that starts a training is as soon as you start a service. So if we need to have it so that it only starts, it marks you as enrolled once you complete either the bridge or a specific service, we can make an update so it only shows enrolled once you start that. But we have it as whenever a service is started in their career plan, because we're making the assumption that money is spent on them, and now because of the receiving services.
okay, that's cool. We'll figure it out. Like I said, there's like kind of a large number, and it may just be that they completed the bridge and are waiting for the job specific training. I think we need to do some fact finding first, but I was just curious if um, the cohort piece might be related to it, but it sounds like not. So appreciate it.
It's not, but it's something that we want to, because we kind of, people, we had started entering, because it's been a learning curve over, just everything, all the way around. And so we made adjustments to the system to try to capture the data, that is going to be most helpful to, one, for reporting, but then also for, day-to-day use, and how we look at that information and how we can use the information that's in the system to help everybody with, making referrals to other programs and helping them, something that's going to be useful to the customer. And so we put together the cohort report so that you can, filter it down by the different types of cohorts and even job specific training. And so, that report's only as helpful as, as if the data is in the system is good data. And so that's why it's really important, um, well, especially now, and trying to make it even more useful, is to, want to make sure your cohort name is something that's meaningful to, your people, especially as you're adding them, and associating individuals with a cohort, job specific, there's these different types. Um, if you choose job specific, then you pick, we have a standard list here for the different types of trainings, but then your capacity, and then, your start dates. And if you have any notes, then this is like an opportunity to say, like we were talking to one grantee, and they're like, well, we do, with this cohort, we have part of the training at this location and part of the training at that location. And so that type of information I think would be really helpful to put in here, because we'll take a look at the cohort report in just a second, but um, that way you can, you just tell them up front, whatever you think would be an important fact for somebody to know about your cohort, then that would be good to add here. It looks like Julie, you have your heavy hand raised.
Yes, I just wanted to ask a clarifying question that's related to Nate's question,
Hmm.
in regards to whether they show as being in job specific. Is it a combination of adding the cohort and making sure that they have the job specific listed in their career plan? Is it that? I'm just trying to kind of,
When it comes to the plan versus actual report, I can take a look at that in just a second, because I was going to go over a couple of those items anyway.
okay,
But
yeah,
with the plan
thank you.
versus, with the plan versus actual, it's going to look specifically for, and let me get this thing out of the way here. Let me go into, we'll just go into this one. If it's, yeah, and I was talking to David the other day. I think we need to add like another section here specifically on reports, just because now we have quite a few things to put in there. Oh, but this one is on the policy and procedures page, and it's down here under monitor and audit, and we have it, you know, if you're a Climate Works, it'll be, you know, it's in the same basic section depending on which program you're in. So each of these reports are a little bit different. But when you click on that, then you go down into this section, and like it'll tell you. So if you, I need to change that word, but we have job specific construction, and it's going to say the number of participants who have completed this job specific training. So this line item is looking for this very specific service. So if it in the plan versus actual, it should only be showing up, you know, the people that have that very specific service should show up in that line item, and that's the only criteria now. We used to have some other like criteria that went along with it, but now that's the only criteria. So yeah, so if you can go through and just make sure your cohort information is up to speed, that will be awesome. Because if we look at the cohort report, and this is in test, you know, you can select, maybe we'll do the person's interested in the Workforce Hub program, and I want to look for job specific, and I want to look for, we'll just do solar. I can see that there's, you know, 2 programs here. And when I click on it, I can see the name, and this is that description. So let's say, you know, the first half of our training is at this location, the second half is at the second location. You know, that would be something that would be put here, you know, your very specific information. And then your program info right here and the credentials that are related, this information actually comes from the training program that it's associated with. And so also whenever you click on this link, you know, opens up to a map, you can figure out, you know, how far it is and all that kind of good stuff with the Google Maps. So that's one of the reasons why we wanted to have that cohort information updated. And let me just go back in here. So like if I click on here, this provider, these are training programs that I have entered into the system. And that's how I made that connection. All right. So let me go over to planned versus actual. And yeah, I'm in as a workforce hub, so I'm going to select my time frame. We'll just do all. And so we added a few we made a few updates to the plan versus actual that are similar for both ClimateWorks and the workforce hubs. And the updates that we made, we'll start out with the updates that we made, were that whenever you click on these, like, so you'll see here's your transition outcome, and we have, you know, job placements, registered apprenticeship placements. When you click on this link right here, it opens up so you can see who the employer names. Okay, and so before we had all the employer names, but we didn't have the link to the individuals who are connected to those employers. So that's new. And the same thing goes, same thing goes for this. I don't have anybody in there for that, but for each of these other sections as well. And so this was done for ClimateWorks and Workforce Hubs. So that's an update. And then something that's not new, but it's related to what we were just talking about as far as the job specific information. So if you're looking for job specific training completers, this is looking for people that have this particular training service in their career plan that's marked as complete, like successfully complete. And then if you click on the credentials, these are the credentials that have been entered along with this particular training program. And then the cohorts. So what it's looking for here is of the people that have this particular training program, what do they have, you know, a construction and building inspectors cohort associated with them? And so for all those people, then you'll see, you know, the cohorts here. And how you add a cohort to a person, I'm kind of jumping around here, but let me go to an individual. So for those that don't know how to add a cohort to yeah, add a cohort, associate a person with a cohort, or Bobby again. So in order, if I look in there, I'm like, oh, well, Bobby's in my whatever training, but doesn't have a cohort. Why did, you know, they're missing. I can go to the intake and, you know, you go through your all your assessments. They went through, you know, putting this stuff in there. There's a section under, you know, one of your, originally I'll say like applicant enrolled. And so as far as that setup process, you can hit add cohort and select it from, you know, your list and put a start and end date that this person was planning to be in this cohort, hit save, and then it'll show up, you know, in this section. If you're like, oh crap, I didn't really mean to put this one in here, you know, you can delete it to update that information. And so now, you know, the system's going to be looking for, did Bobby complete the bridge training? And then it'll say, do they have a bridge cohort? And then this will be listed and Bobby would be associated with that in the line item on the plan versus actual. Are there any questions about like cohorts, the plan versus actuals, any updates that I went over? Okay, are there any questions in general about anything that I haven't covered?
Natasha, this is Diana. I would just
Mhm.
ask that as everybody is filling out their plan versus actual from into the system and comparing that to the monthly reports, please make sure that that data is matching. And if it is not matching, then please work with Candace and Natasha, your team, to make sure that that data is matching, because that is an ongoing effort that we need the data to be as accurate as possible. And I know we're still seeing some discrepancies on our side for some of these numbers, inquiries and applicants. I noticed the enrollments are getting better, pretty close to being matching, but still some discrepancies in some of the data. So that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Mhm. One of the questions that has come up, and I'm not logged in as a navigator, but it's come up several times with some folks, so I figure it might be worth sharing, is that what happens, like how do I follow what's going on with the people that, I've referred over to ClimateWorks or Workforce Hubs? And so what we've, showed them is they have a section in their plan versus actual. I can't get to it because I'm logged in as Workforce Hub, but where they can see, the number of applicants they've had, the number of enrolled, and so they can monitor the number of people, like their people that they've referred over to those other programs, in that report. And what the navigators have access to is this intake page, this progress page. So they can see kind of where the person is in the process and look at that at any time. They also have access to the intake page. So, if there's anything you're working with your navigators that you need to update, or how, there are different workflows for different across the different partners and everything, but navigators do have access to the intake page, but that's all that they have access to is the progress page and the intake page. And whenever it comes to them, seeing somebody that's enrolled, we've let them know that, once the either ClimateWorks or Workforce Hub or in the future CEJA, all the different programs, once that particular grantee has updated the information in the person's career plan and started a service, then the system will automatically mark that as enrolled. So they don't necessarily, they don't necessarily have to do anything. I mean, they can't really do anything other than, if they said, hey, I talked to Natasha and she said that, she had already started training, but she's not showing up as enrolled, there can be that kind of conversation to say, oh, maybe Natasha got overlooked in the system and just needs to have the career plan updated. But from a navigator's perspective, that's what you have access to, progress and intake. After that, these other areas will have to be updated by the program that the person is, the grantee that the person's working with. Okay. Yes, I see Amber.
Hi, everyone. I was wondering if anybody else had issues with customers being transferred to them and it's showing that the application was never completed.
I don't know. Yeah, I'll let anybody else that wants to, chime in or put a chat in, that's fine. But if you have you submit, and David's not on today, he's out today. But have you submitted a help desk ticket for that?
Not quite yet. I just wanted to make
Okay.
sure there wasn't like an error or something on my end.
Yeah, no, anytime you have a question like that, feel free to submit a help desk ticket. And the way you do that is up here is your, your name, and then you can do help request. And when you submit a help request, then it's a way that you can put in, a lot of times we'll use like a customer's ID. Gotta go back to the list and see if it has, yeah. So I have like their Illinois WorkNet ID, but you can put in, and that using that help request ticketing system, you can put in the customer's information like the first name, last name, whatever, or ID or ID, and then and then your specific question, and we can take a look at that. And then that way we're not sharing personal information over email.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any other questions before we go into the demo of the grantee details or training programs? All right. I am going to go ahead and jump into that information. You're welcome to listen through the rest of it, or if you already know everything about the the section, um, this might be a repeat for some people. So, or this will be a repeat for some people, but you're welcome to stay on or not. So today what we are going to cover is the grantee details and the training program information. And to get to this, I'm logged in as Workforce Hub. If you're a navigator, this doesn't apply to you, but it does for ClimateWorks, Workforce Hubs, in the future, returning residents and so forth. So along the top, you'll have this little section for provider info. And we have grantee. Oh, the other thing I just want to mention while we're here, we don't use the appointments for this program, but if we're working with you, or if you need assistance, or we have Macy that's been helping some of our grantees with updating like older data before we, that happened, before we made some updates, and so now needs to be updated in order to be reflected in the reports. We have this file upload section, so you can, if you're going to share like customer information, we don't really want you to send us like an Excel file or anything like that of people over email. What we would prefer is if you use this file upload section and you pick your thing and then you just upload like you would normally. I don't care what you pick here. And upload it into this area, and then just let us know that, because there's no notifications here or anything to let us know, but if you just let us know that, hey, we uploaded this, and could you compare, we can't find these people, or can you update these people, then let us know it's here and we can take a look at it. But again, we prefer not to put any or minimal customer data and sending it via email. All right, so what we're going to focus on is grantee details. I think everybody should be pretty much like all set up with the grantee details section, but we have your information here. You can put your grant information in here if you want to. It's not required. If you want to use this staff completed required training, you can, but this program does not require you to do this. The training programs that you put into the system and what we're going to talk about next will populate this page. You don't have to do anything with those. If you have work sites, you can put those in there, but you don't have to. And the big thing with this, where we really use this, is the different services. So, this is the listing of services that are available to the people who are doing the data entry for the career plan. So whenever depending on your program, the career plan will be either pre-populated with either a bridge service or pre-apprenticeship service. And all these are just like the other services that can be added to the system, whether it's, job specific training or wraparound services, but there's all these other ones here as well. If it's not in this list, people can't choose it in the career plan. The other thing that we have up here is if we edit this, there's a section here for accepting applications. So if a site is not accepting applications, you can choose no. And then whenever they're in the pre-screening section, it'll put text next to it that says like not accepting applications. But so far, everybody we have is yes. And then the next section over is training programs. And so you'll have your the project, who the grantee is, and then you can filter on the training programs to see what's available here, what you already have in the system. And if you're looking at this and you're like, oh, I don't see my ED program, you can click add the program. Again, we may eventually change how these are categorized up here. It just hasn't bubbled up high enough on the priority list yet. So you can choose, if you're the Climate Works, you can choose pre-apprenticeship, or you can use career pathways. Those are, I think, what most people choose. But right now, this isn't really used for anything. Whenever you're adding a training program, you can do one of these searches and it'll pre-populate these fields that we have some information for. If not, just choose submit training program for approval. You put the program name, description, provider name, all these required fields. I'm going to go back and choose one so I don't actually have to enter any information. So you can see what this looks like. We have a training program, zip code, so it's just a lookup. You use keyword search, SOC code. You only get to put one SOC code in there, so you can put a general higher level SOC code in there. Again, keyword search, and the NAICS code. This just says construction. And then the next one is the baseline requirements. You can add this information in here if you would like to, but it's not necessarily required for this particular program. And then the associated credentials. So we have several credentials that are already, we say, hard-coded into the system. And I can't remember what the exact, all of them are, like one's OSHA, that's what sticks out in my head, but there's several of them that are already hard-coded into each of the services. So you can just pick it. It already has all the text and everything. And you just have to say, like, do you have a copy of the certificate and when they earned it? But if there's anything that's above and beyond those four, and I can show you those two in just a minute, then you can enter them into like along with this particular training program. So especially if it's like a job specific training and there's something that's like very specific to solar that we don't have, hard coded, then make sure you add that credential with the training program, training provider, training program for that particular job specific training, because it will populate in a couple of ways. Once you have it here and once it's approved, when you're adding in services for that individual, you can easily, just pick it from the list and it'll put the information in there for you, and you have to do, minimal data entry for that. The other thing is it will show, I don't know if you saw it whenever I was looking at the cohort report and I picked a cohort and it pulled in the training program information. These are the training programs that it's pulling those specific pieces of information from. And one of the things that it's pulling in is the credentials that are associated with that particular cohort and training program. So again, if you have those other additional credentials, add them to this. And to do that, you hit this add and submit request. So you have a credential name, pick the type, institution or owner of the credential, a description, and then if they earn, will they earn it upon, most of them I believe will earn the credential upon successful completion of the training program, then you can choose that. I'm going to hit save. And after you do that, then your I believe your approval status will be like pending. And then once you have your information in the system and the credentials in there, then you can notify your RA that that information is in the system and that you would like to have them review and approve it. And then when they go in there, they'll go through, look at all the information, and they can approve the credentials, they'll approve the program, and then you'll be able to select it from your different areas throughout the system. And since I mentioned, let's see if I got an intake over here. I'll go to Bobby's career plan. And so you'll see that I have, in this particular one, I have the bridge in there. And when I do that service provider, that training program, like I just talked about, will show up as one of these options. So this is the name of my grantee that I'm logged in as. And these are the 3 programs. Look at the, you see these 3 programs over here in training. When I go back to the service, you'll see those are the 3 trainings. So I picked that one. And, I hit save and I could do my post assessments. And then when it comes to earn credentials, these are the 4 that are hard coded: OSHA, first aid, and CCER, and this MC3 certification. Those are already in the system. And then you'll see here that that particular training program had another credential associated with it. So I can pick it. And when I do the information that I had associated with it in the training program, what we just looked at, is put here in these gray boxes. And all I have to do is pick the date and hit save. And my listing of credentials that are associated, that Bobby's earned as part of completing this particular training will be listed here in this list. Any questions about that? Okay. Are there any other questions or comments anybody would like to share? Yes, Joy. You're muted if you're speaking. There you go.
Yes, I was trying to find the unmute. So with the certificates, the ones that are, you said hard in there already,
Mhm.
if we have other certificates that are not there, do we just have to add them manually each time, or do we have the capability to add it under the hard ones, if that makes sense?
It wouldn't necessarily, you're not going to be able to put it under the hard ones, but when you add it to this training program, like so for solar, I'm going to go ahead and click on it because I think that's what I have in Bobby's. But I added all this stuff in here, okay, and then go here. Under credential, you'll see I have solar tech level 2. You know what I mean? I just a bogus one, obviously, that I put in here. But once this is approved, so when I go back to Bobby, I think it's here, you'll see like this is my hard-coded one, but because I said, Richland, and I chose my Solar Tech, that's the training program, and because I said Solar Tech training program, it says, okay, well, what kind of credentials can you earn if you're part of that program? And it's going to put them right here. So you don't have to manually enter it every time. Once you have it in that training program, then it'll be there for you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Great question. All right.
And I'm sorry,
have,
did we get Yannika's question answered in the chat? Sorry, I just don't remember
I
if we
did
talked
not.
about it.
I haven't had the chat up, so let me, I gotta get it. I gotta find it. Hold on. Chat. Hold on, let me go through these. Got lots of AI note takers.
I think she's the last one there.
Okay. Is there a way to update the inquiry page after you reach out to the future applicant to notate that you've contacted them? Let me go to this. Let's find an inquiry. A little bit newer. The only way is to, the only way we have right now is to complete the pre-screening and then add notes at the bottom. Oh, but they didn't answer the phone. We don't have that right now, but but we can discuss ways to do something like that. Like, even if we had something maybe up here, like, you know, so it doesn't require you to fill out all this stuff because you can't do it. You know what I mean? You could have like, this person does not wish to be contacted, or maybe we could add something up here like attempted contact. You know, like a notes things like up here at the top. Would that meet your needs? I'm not sure. Well, we can I can mock that up though. Talk about it with the RAs, but I'm thinking that, you know, yes. Yep. Yep. Sounds good. All right. I will add that to the list. All right. Any other questions or suggestions? All right. Well, if not, everyone have a great rest of your day. And again, reach out to us if you have any questions. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, y'all.